I used scraps of corrugated plastic from previous projects to make a scratch pad for my cat. This project was simple to design, but labor-intensive to build. Let's get into it. You've probably seen corrugated cardboard scratch pads before. This is the same idea, using corrugated plastic instead. This seems like a good time to mention that corrugated plastic is made from polypropylene, which is food safe and non-toxic. It is considered by the FDA to be among the safest plastics available because even extreme heat doesn't cause toxins to leach out. Because it's also very easy to work with, owners of small pets, like guinea pigs, like to make cages or pens for their pets using corrugated plastic. Polypropylene is 100% recyclable under Resin Code 5. For more information on the properties of corrugated plastic, see the link in the comments below. Do keep in mind that there are sometimes additives mixed with the plastic to give it different properties, to make it flame retardant, for example, or static resistant. A discarded sheet of plastic may be treated with something that is not so safe for animals, or printed on with an ink that may be not so safe. This didn't occur to me before building the pet carrier. Fortunately, my kitty had no adverse reactions. It will be safest to know the corrugated plastic before you use it, and that probably means buying it. Note that this advice is for anything you might build for a pet, or anything that might come into contact with food. My plan was to house many strips of a similar size in a box built for the purpose. Everything would be held together with wire. What do you think? Is there anything you would do differently? How do you see this working out? I hadn't used wire before, but I think it has some interesting potential in corrugated plastic projects. I rated my scrap box for all the pieces I could use. It became clear that more would be needed. My cutting board was getting pretty cut up. It was time to retire it and sacrifice it upon the board that would take its place. Quite a few strips are required, which means a lot of cutting. I cut larger scraps into smaller ones, chose one piece to use as a cutting board, and cut at a table while watching football. This project has been in the works for quite a while. The small cutting board was ultimately cut into strips itself. I also marked where I'd need holes and used skewers to make those holes. The cutting boards were cut all the way through in places, and I ended up using a fair bit of tape to help hold things together until they could be assembled. I couldn't think of a reason not to use a thinner plastic for the box. This made the cutting and folding of the box much easier. Finally, I got around to putting it all together. I calculated the length needed for the wire and inserted it into the box first. All of the strips were then added to the wire. I imagined tucking the extra wire into the holes, but looking more closely at the wire, I realized that it was too stiff for that. I got almost exactly the same result though, by bending it at the right place and then tapping it into the holes. It was stiff enough to make its own way in, sort of like a nail, wherever the hole wasn't wide enough. The result is not as ugly as I thought it might be, although the box isn't held in optimal shape by the wire. The reason for this is simple. I made the width of the box the same as the length of the strips. I didn't account for the space taken up by folding or the thickness of the corrugated plastic. So the strips are just a bit too long to fit, and thus the box isn't quite box-shaped. My plan actually did halfway account for this. I could have bought a couple of long bolts and nuts and used those to hold everything together. Because of the box, I can't just flip it over when one side gets worn out from clawing. But when that happens, I'll probably just cut open the bottom. Unfortunately, this project does not yet have the endorsement of my kitty. She hasn't yet clawed her new scratch pad. It's been less than a week, so I'll give her some time. She likes to claw at uncut sheets of corrugated plastic, so I'm still hopeful. I hope it's been a good trip. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and click the bell to be sure you're notified of my next video.